Hello, welcome to the Popcorn Session channel. Today's suspense movie is The Wall. Let's show some support for the channel, subscribe, and hit that like button for another thrilling movie, and now let's get into it. The sole survivor of a squad of soldiers will have to take refuge behind a nearly destroyed wall while trying not to be eliminated by an extremely skilled sniper.
Should I take Sergeant Matthews' head off?
Hold still, man! Don't fucking move!
In 2007, at the end of the United States of America's war with Iraq, two American soldiers are monitoring an oil pipeline where it seems several workers were quickly taken out by a professional sniper, but there is no visible enemy at the moment. In Isaac's opinion, it was a lone professional who did it all, but on the other hand, Sergeant Matthews doubts this, as it would require someone exceptionally skilled to pull off such a thing.
It's fucking weird to me.
Don't mean shit, man.
I mean, you took him out pretty fast.
Suddenly, Matthews loses his patience after spending many hours there and decides to go to the location, despite Isaac's warning that it could be dangerous if there's a very skilled sniper around. As the sergeant walks towards the area, the two engage in a relaxed conversation over their communication devices and exchange playful banter, making it seem like everything is peaceful. At this point, they genuinely appear to be alone on site. However, Isaac's telescope ends up fogging, and he needs to clean it, causing him to stop observing the surroundings. However, at that moment, Sergeant Matthews arrived at the scene and realized something was amiss. All the bodies had a single gunshot to the head, indicating they were likely taken out by a skilled sniper. Suddenly, the sergeant was hit and fell wounded to the ground. Isaac left his position and went to his colleague to see if he could rescue him. But as he got close to his friend, the sniper started shooting at him, and the sergeant ordered him to get out of there.
Go! Get away from me! Go! Go!
Unfortunately, Isaac is hit and wounded before he can take cover behind a nearly destroyed wall. Despite his severely injured leg and immense pain, Isaac still tries to find a way to save his colleague. However, Matthews informs him that his wound is too severe, and he won't be able to survive. He asks Isaac to tell his brother where he hid the money he had accumulated throughout his life. Refusing to give up on his colleague, Isaac faces the pain, applies a tourniquet to his leg to stop the bleeding before losing too much blood, and then grabs a long-range radio communicator to call for rescue. Unfortunately, the radio's antenna is damaged, and they can't expect help in a short amount of time. Matthews then decides to take action against the sniper and asks Isaac to try to provide an approximate location of the enemy. Although Isaac warns his friend not to do anything, as it might lead to more shots from the sniper, he ultimately decides to remove some stones from the wall to use his telescope and spot the enemy. In the process, he injures his hand but successfully gains sight of the sniper. Unfortunately, it's too late, and Matthews has succumbed to his abdominal wound.
Oh, man. God. You didn't bleed out. Come on, man, get up.
Not knowing what else to do and seeing that his leg is deteriorating, Isaac summons all his strength and removes the bullet from his leg, a painful and harrowing ordeal. After tending to his wounds, Isaac eventually succumbs to exhaustion and pain, fainting. Fortunately, he awakens just in time when they were making a final transmission to see if anyone was on the other end of the line. Upon emerging from his daze, Isaac immediately communicates his life-or-death situation and requests a medical evacuation. He provides his location, and the person on the other end instructs him to wait. The soldier even tries to call Matthews again to check if he's still alive, but there is no response.
I need you to stand and fire into the air. We need to get a look on your position.
What the f***?
Strangely, the man on the other end of the line starts insisting that Isaac should reveal his position by using a signal flare or firing shots. However, Isaac realizes that this doesn't make any sense and is not part of the rescue protocol. The man on the other end continues to persuade Isaac, and it's at this moment that the soldier notices a strong accent in the voice on the radio, revealing that this man is actually the sniper himself. Isaac starts to break into a cold sweat, realizing that he almost revealed his position, and even shouts in frustration. The man on the other end of the line begins to talk about Matthews in an attempt to demoralize Isaac, but it doesn't shake his resolve. Isaac continues to call for help over the long-range radio. Isaac begins a conversation with the enemy to understand what he wants, and the man reveals that all he desires is to get to know Isaac. Since there are only the two of them there, Isaac reluctantly agrees to talk to the man, hoping to gain some insight into his enemy. However, the enemy soldier states that he has nothing to say and no stories to tell, suggesting that they may have had similar intentions. While engaging in conversation, Isaac tries to pinpoint the location of the man on the other end of the radio. The man claims to be just an ordinary Iraqi civilian, but Isaac is understandably skeptical. He starts recording the sound delay from the shots he heard earlier to determine the distance between them. Isaac uses the angle at which the bullet hit him to approximate the enemy's position. He identifies several possible locations where the enemy could be hiding. To ensure accuracy, he meticulously maps out all the potential positions that align with the angle and distance of the shot. All of this is happening during a conversation where the enemy soldier reveals himself as an elite soldier. Through their conversation, Isaac realizes that the enemy has extensive knowledge about them and was likely trained by Americans. Aware that the enemy has betrayed the United States, Isaac mentions that these killings were senseless, as the oil pipeline would have brought money to the country. However, the other man is well aware that this isn't true and that the US was merely exploiting the country's resources. Isaac even tries to convey that the war ended some time ago and that their current situation doesn't make sense. However, the enemy insists that for Isaac, the war is far from over. Undeterred, the soldier begins to assess his options for action by surveying his surroundings. As Isaac attempts to crawl towards something he spotted, the man on the radio reveals that he knows Dean, the other soldier who was with him and Matthews. Furthermore, he threatens to destroy Matthews' face if Isaac refuses to converse. Under these circumstances, Isaac reluctantly begins to talk about how he and his fellow soldiers had some fun there since the war had ended. He does this while trying to reach for an object he saw, even though he feels uncomfortable discussing his deceased colleagues. However, because the enemy is threatening to shoot Matthews in the head, Isaac doesn't have much choice. He takes a sip of his last drop of water and realizes that his canteen had been hit. Afterward, he resumes the conversation with the man and inquires about how this situation will end and what exactly the enemy wants. The enemy reveals that all he wants now is to get to know Isaac even better, as he already knows some details about the wounded soldier. For example, he knows that Isaac is dehydrated because his canteen was intentionally hit. Isaac initially finds it hard to believe because it seems impossible for someone to be so precise. However, things take an even stranger turn when the man mentions that the radio's antenna was also hit and provides exact details about the location of the bullet lodged in Isaac's knee and the symptoms he's experiencing. This naturally alarms Isaac, prompting him to grab his weapon and attempt to change his position, thinking he's being observed.
You say my wall. The very wall your country came here to knock down.
As the conversation continues, the man's comments about the school being destroyed for the oil pipeline do not shake Isaac's resolve. Instead, he starts considering various factors, such as the probable weapon used by the sniper and the amount of ammunition that has been expended. To dispel any remaining doubts, he decides to ask the sniper directly. However, this is a ruse to listen more closely to the sounds around his enemy. After paying careful attention to the ambient sounds and background noises, Isaac comes to the conclusion that the sniper is located amidst the pile of trash and debris at some distance. Realizing the incredible skill required for such precision, Isaac then asks the sniper if he is Juba, the legendary angel. With this revelation about Juba's identity, Isaac begins to call him a traitor, arguing that all of his sniper skills were learned from the Americans themselves. However, Juba sees things from a different perspective, as at this moment, it is the US soldiers invading his country to exploit its resources. The conversation continues, and Juba asks why Isaac is still there, repeatedly returning to the field. He questions if it's because of Dean and requests Isaac to share some information about his friend. Having no better option, Isaac recounts that they were childhood friends who grew up in the same region, with close-knit families. Isaac's father was like a grandfather to Dean's son. This strong connection is the reason Isaac can't bring himself to leave, as he would have to face Dean's family regularly, leading to constant feelings of guilt. After hearing this, Juba describes the gruesome things he would do to Isaac's body and how he would impale the soldier's lying tongue on his chest. However, he adds that he would leave Isaac's body to be found. Aware that his attempts have failed so far, Isaac puts his uniform and helmet on his weapon, hoping to deceive Juba into shooting at it to reveal his position. Unfortunately, Juba doesn't fall for the trick, and to make matters worse, the helmet falls on the other side of the wall, leading to Juba's laughter at the failed attempt. Feeling helpless and desperate, Isaac begins to cry and even contemplates the idea of death. Isaac eventually decides to give up and lies down to rest. Later, when he wakes up, he musters his strength and goes to the body of another soldier. Unbeknownst to him, he has just placed himself in the sniper's sights. He retrieves a backpack and a radio and quickly returns to the wall. However, this time, Juba takes a shot at him. The first shot goes wide due to strong winds and airborne sand, but the subsequent shots are aimed at the wall, which cannot withstand the damage and collapses, leaving less cover for Isaac. Despite this, Isaac doesn't seem to be too concerned. He drinks all the water he can find and snacks on some candies they had with them. Suddenly, Juba contacts him and scolds him for his recklessness, stating that he could have been easily hit. While Juba continued to engage in conversation, Isaac used that time to inspect their equipment. Unfortunately for him, the radio was no longer functioning, and the scope was even worse than before. Seeing that the sniper wasn't going to stop talking, Isaac attempts to respond, but the radio begins to experience strange signal interference. It's at this moment that Isaac realizes that Matthews, miraculously, is still alive and messing with his radio. Hearing that the sniper is also on the line, Matthews uses a small mirror to signal to Isaac. Naturally, Isaac is overjoyed to see that his partner is alive and reveals that the sniper's position is in the pile of trash. The sergeant takes a look at the location and starts trying to reach his sniper rifle. To get Juba's attention, Isaac tries to communicate with him by discussing famous American poets. Juba, in turn, reveals that he was a teacher in Baghdad until the school was destroyed by an American bomb. However, for Isaac, this isn't a valid reason for the sniper to target the workers or engage in this war.
Não fique impressionado.
You're no more religious than I am, man. It's just an excuse to shoot up some Americans.
The problem was that while the two of them were talking, Juba was attempting to check Matthew's body. Luckily, the heavy dust in the air provided excellent cover for Juba. Isaac and Juba continue their conversation, each trying to inflict more mental damage on the other. Juba talks about how the soldier is becoming increasingly weak and debilitated, both physically and mentally. However, to buy time for Matthews, Isaac mentions the legendary Captain Albright, the man who trained both him and Matthews and who would hunt down Juba after all of this.
I didn't see him, that's how I got hit. It was my fault. God damn it, you f***ing listening?
Isaac está fazendo.
At this moment, Matthews finally manages to reach for his weapon. However, as the dust settles, he can't move because he's in an open area, and the situation becomes extremely tense as Juba has a clear line of sight on him. Juba tells Isaac that if he doesn't explain why he's carrying a broken scope, he will shoot Matthews in the shoulder. Now that Isaac knows his partner is still alive and to buy more time, he reveals that he uses the broken scope because he can no longer handle a rifle due to his guilt, as Dean died because he lost sight of the enemy sniper. However, as Juba remains unresponsive, Isaac begins talking to Matthews, who is getting into position to shoot. Unbeknownst to him, his radio is still on, and realizing that Juba has heard what he said, Isaac starts shooting into the air to get the sniper's attention. All the while, he attempts to communicate the enemy's location to Matthews. The sergeant feels prepared and starts firing into the garbage pile without a defined target. Unfortunately, when he runs out of bullets and needs to reload, Juba shoots and hits him in the shoulder. Isaac panics and begins speaking on the radio, claiming that Matthews is no longer a threat, hoping that Juba will spare his life. After being shot in the shoulder, Matthews tries to crawl toward the wall along with his weapon. Unfortunately, Juba manages to eliminate him just as he was about to reach the wall. Seeing his friend die right in front of him deeply shakes Isaac. As a result, he begins to plead to go home. However, the sniper counters this by saying it's a lie because he's still there even after the end of the war. With no more hope left, Isaac reveals that he was the one who killed Dean. He had tried to hit an enemy but ended up missing the shot, with the bullet accidentally hitting Dean instead. This guilt has been eating away at his soul ever since, preventing him from going home in peace. That's why he always tries to mend the story by lying to everyone, except now, to his greatest enemy.
Guy was playing possum. Started shooting at Dean. I tried shooting back, but bullet went right through Dean.
Seeing that Juba has stopped responding, Isaac crawls to the radio and attempts to communicate with the base once again. After making some adjustments, he finally manages to get in touch with someone. However, before he can request help, the sniper intercepts the call and begins communicating with Captain Albright as if he were Isaac himself. He does this because a soldier had already managed to call for help earlier, and by sending false information over the radio, Juba is trying to delay the arrival of the rescue convoy as much as possible. Later, Isaac wakes up and hears the sound of helicopters. He tries to communicate with Juba using the radio but receives no response. Isaac then uses a piece of wood attached to a rope to retrieve Matthew's weapon. He prepares the gun exactly as he needs it, knocks down the wall, and returns to his position, ready to open fire on Juba, all while the rescue helicopters are arriving.
I ain't afraid to die.
Suddenly, Juba starts shooting at Isaac, revealing his position. Seizing this opportunity, Isaac takes a single shot at the enemy. At this moment, Juba stops firing, and Isaac isn't sure if he hit the target or not. However, he needs to signal his presence to the rescue helicopters, so he decides to stand up and closes his eyes, not wanting to see whether he will be hit or not. After some time, he realizes he is still alive, and help has finally arrived. Exhausted, he collapses to be taken to the helicopter. Unfortunately, he is the only survivor. The soldiers recover the bodies of all those who were killed and take off in the helicopter. But to everyone's misfortune, Juba is still alive. The sniper begins eliminating everyone aboard and even causes the helicopter to crash. In the end, Juba emerged as the victor and the sole survivor of this battle. To make matters worse, he continues to respond to the American base as if he were one of their soldiers. Actually, this wasn't supposed to be the original ending of the movie. The plan was for it to conclude with Isaac being rescued and a sniper dying, but honestly, I think this ending is better for not ending up being cliché. And that's it, folks. Leave a like, and see you next time.